Hi, Mary.
Hi, Leni. How are you doing?
I am doing really well, especially now that I see your bright smile.
I feel that way about you. I love what
Okay.
you're wearing today, and you're so bright. And please tell a little bit about the dog that you have sort of adopted and taken care of. I think people would like to hear that story.
Okay. Well, I saw a dog that was very emaciated at this last parking lot, and there was just something that compelled me to try to help him. So I started feeding him twice a day, and then I realized after about a month that he wasn't going to make it if I couldn't get him off the parking lot and to a vet. So we got him to the vet, and he was diagnosed with tick disease. He had a heart murmur, and he was on the verge of needing a blood transfusion. And
Wow.
he had a very bad skin infection. So we were sent on our way with all the medications, and he got some he had to have twice a day, others just once a day. And then after a while, I realized again, he's not going to make it if he remains on the parking lot. So I made arrangements, and Gustavo at the shack was very gracious and allowed me to put him on the upstairs balcony where he is now, and he's turned into a little brat. He is. I named him Phoenix because when I had to take him to the vet, you have to have a name, and I didn't know his personality. So I envisioned him raising out of the ashes of neglect and abuse and becoming this nice dog. And right now, that's what he has become.
Yeah.
And he was abused. I don't know if you noticed on the picture, his ears, somebody cut his ears. And it must have been with a scissor. Yeah. And he was even though I fed him twice a day for so long, I think on the 9th of September, he started coming to me. So for almost a month and a half, he would have nothing to do with me. He would walk away. And a friend of mine, Steve, had also helped feeding him. And he would go up to Steve and wag his tail. So from that, I concluded that he was abused by a woman. So anyway, that's the story about Phoenix, and I called the operation Erasing the Shame of Mankind, One Dog at a Time.
Oh, and I love that. I love that. And I wish that people could see the photos, because really it's incredibly dramatic.
Yeah, it is.
How a change can occur in such a positive way pretty quickly, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think we all need to keep that in mind. Sometimes I think change is such a long process, or, oh no, this is going to take forever. My own change, personal change. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
All it takes is love.
Yeah, amen to that. Love. And so with that in mind, we have Clary with us today. And we're so excited, Carol, that you're with us, because we know that you have a lot to talk about, along with your beautiful voice. I hope at some point you even talk about that, please.
Okay, well, I wondered why you were wanting me to talk. I've listened to the podcast, and I think they've done this and they've done that. And, well, as I say, I have two little voices, one on one side that says, Carol, you've had a really remarkable life. And on the other one, I have this little voice that says, everything you've done is a little small. And then I think the story of the dog is really significant to me because, it's the small things we do that probably matter the most.
Yes.
Because they are those pebbles dropped into the water that have waves. So I think I can tell that side of the voice to be quiet.
Yeah, shut up. Shut up that side.
And if I may say something, in Taoism, you don't do big things. You can't do big things. You do little things. And then they accumulate.
Well, my life has been a lot of little things, and I think about the extraordinary things that have happened to me. I grew up in rural Oklahoma and had never spent the night away from home until I was 15, and then we moved to California when I was 11. And so, and lived in a trailer. We lived for a while, a 26-foot trailer, and then finally moved to a mobile home in what's now Monterey Park in the LA area. But from rural Oklahoma to the metropolis was a big change. And so I never really thought that, I never really could imagine what my life would be like. my parents made sure that I got a good education. And I do have a really good education. It's all public except for my doctorate. And I guess the extraordinary things about my life are I met my first husband, my daughter's father, in Austria, and I'm really proud of my daughter. Although she has taught me all these lessons about all the things I cannot control. She's totally different than I am. And yet she's very wise for her age. And I have two other girls that have come to me that I consider my daughters. They're Heart's daughters. They're both Taiwanese, and they both came to me when they were about 15 years old. And now they're in their 50s, and they still sometimes call me Mom, sometimes just call me Carol. But we still have a relationship with them. And then, so my life has been this continuation of travel and things that I never would have expected for somebody who never spent the night away from home. When I was in my 20s, I moved for 3 years. I had a very interesting stint. Well, first of all, I went on a religious student team that went to Latin America only to learn from Latin Americans. We weren't there on a mission to build anything or do anything like that, just meet students, different places. And then we spent, I think, a month in Argentina. I fell in love with a family there that became like a second family. And from that, I have a son, which is pretty extraordinary, and a sister that disappeared, one of the desaparecidos in the 70s, and two brother-in-laws from that family and a cousin. So, and now the sister that is my age, and that's quite extraordinary to have lived that experience. I ended up going back because I wanted to be with them, and I also had fallen in love with an Argentine on that trip, and so I somehow got bilingual. They told me I would never learn a foreign language.
Who told you?
The department head at Cal State LA. I had taken, if you can imagine, it's a great story. I had taken beginning Spanish 3 times, and we were on the quarter system, and I would get to the 8th week, and I was failing each time. And so finally I would drop. So I did that 3 times, 3 quarters. And finally they gave me a battery of tests, and they said I would never learn a foreign language. Didn't have any aptitude. Well, now, of course, I'm fluent in Spanish.
You were incredibly fluent.
And
so
semi-fluent, pretty fluent in German if I practice. So
why do you think that, with their battery of tests? See, we have to be so careful of other people's judgment of us, even by test, right? Because there's always possibility. Do you think that living there is what broke that for you?
I think what happened was that the family that I stayed with, they were my oldest sister, my age, who now has Alzheimer's. She's my age. She's 6 months younger than I am. She was an English teacher, and my mother was a French teacher. And they really knew how to make me speak Spanish. Mm. And I also wrote to the Argentine boyfriend, and every few days in Spanish. And then I took a different way of studying Spanish. And I'd had Latin in high school, and I think it started to, and also I'm dyslexic. I found out that I am dyslexic. So not every kind of language learning is good for me. So as it's turned out, I'm fluent. And it's an extraordinary thing in my life because I feel I'm like with the Catholics that, the converted Catholic who's more Catholic than the Catholics that grow up. I didn't grow up Catholic, but I feel like sometimes I'm more Mexican than I am American because there are a lot of things that I start to defend Mexico. I had a little event like that yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
Care to share?
Yeah, I had listened yesterday or the day before to the mañaneras of our new president. Notice our new president. And I was just so impressed with her press conference. And she explained about how the business with the Supreme Court justices. And I keep thinking, maybe that's really a better way to have elected the people that are going to judge us, elect them rather than have them appointed. I mean, thinking about what's happened in the United States. So it really kind of turned my thinking around. And I try to talk to my cleaning lady a lot about her perspective on Mexico and on women and on the government and the economy. And that really has changed the way I think about things. So I did kind of leap into my defense of Mexico yesterday and kind of cross some boundaries that I should not have. But I forgave myself. So that's an extraordinary thing about me. I think that my life I was there, I went back to, I found a way to go back to Argentina, which wasn't really to Argentina, it was to Uruguay. And I had a 2-year contract at first and then a 3rd year.
Doing what?
And this was I was supposed to be there on an experimental missionary service. And I didn't have to be saving souls. They sent me there to translate kind of like the Reader's Digest version of Latin American documents written by Latin Americans, researchers on agricultural economy, politics, history, religion, education. And so I met some of the foremost thinkers, and women's liberation. I met some of the foremost thinkers in Latin America during 1970 to 1973, including Paulo Freire,
Wow.
because they sent me, first of all, to language school in Mexico to make sure that I was fluent and that I could do, and so I was there. I had 2 weeks with Paulo Freire, studying with him.
Wow.
It was an extraordinary experience. So as I say, sometimes I'm kind of the Forrest Gump. I've been there with a lot of other people, extraordinary people. I also translated some of the abstracts, some shortened versions of the early theology of liberation. So, and met some of those priests that were in Bolivia and in Brazil as they came through this publishing house where I worked. And then I extended for a 3rd year after I guess we could call it a civil war. So I lived there in the middle of a revolution.
And that's when your sister disappeared.
No, my sister disappeared in 1976. So this was 1973 when I finally left because I couldn't stay. I didn't want to work in the American school. My contract ended and it was dangerous. The last year that I worked there, I was working in a closet in the back of one of the churches, doing with my typewriter, and with a typewriter yet, translating these documents. And the office that I had worked in, there were, I think, 8 people in that office, and there were only 3 of us that remained that were not either exiled, had self-deported, or were in prison.
Now, with regard, sorry to go back again to the sister who disappeared, I thought that not too long ago, Argentina had sort of come forward with what had happened to most people, but you still have
we know what happened to them.
Oh, you do?
Because one of the grandnieces, I consider them my family because, they're family to me. One of my grandnieces, named actually for the sister that disappeared, her name was Mercedes, and so we call her Mecha, and she's also a singer. She was part of the Truth and Reconciliation for Argentina, and we know that my sister, my 2 brother-in-laws, and a cousin were all tortured in the Marine the Marine base outside of La Plata, where my family lived. And they were then killed and dumped into the ocean. So we know that now.
Wow.
That those records were finally found. So we know.
So Argentina went through Truth and Reconciliation, sort of like Africa has done?
Kind of, but
Okay.
not really.
Okay.
But at least
Interesting.
there was some process. And my Argentine mother, that I call her Mama Teresa, she was one of the mothers for the Plaza de Mayo. And so I got to see the difference between what happened in Argentina, where there was a really violent revolution, and Uruguay, that was kind of Robin Hoodish, where nonviolence was very important. And so I am a proponent of nonviolence. I don't like guns. I saw the difference, what happened to my family, and in that process, and what happened in Uruguay. My friends that survived now have been able to come back. They're productive individuals, and so I know what's happening in Uruguay. It's a very different process because of really a nonviolent struggle. So I have a real sense of not liking gun violence and gun ownership because of that experience. I really believe in nonviolence. I think there is a way to change things.
So, do you call yourself a pacifist?
I think I would consider myself a pacifist, but an active pacifist. An active pacifist. Not something like I'm going to sit back and not do anything.
When you really think about it, I mean, I think the world has taken a nightmare pill. We have created weapons so powerful, we can't use them, because in using them we would annihilate ourselves. I mean, how much sense does that make?
But we still use those weapons to annihilate. It's just like the dog. It's the one person. It's the one family. It's the one culture. It's the small things that happen that eventually those cultures how will they ever reconcile after the kinds of things we're seeing? Yeah. How can they ever reconcile?
Right.
That hatred
and come to peace about that, and
find peace.
And be able to work together, different nations, I don't know. It's scary.
While I was there, there was another side to it. I also sang. I had a master's degree in music before I guess I had a bachelor's degree in music before I went to Latin America. When I came back, I got a master's in music. And while I was in Latin America, I had an opportunity to sing, and kind of got me back to singing. And I ended up in 1976, 77, going to Austria, trying to make a singing career. From revolution to opera, which is totally uncommitted to anything except nerves on the stage. And so I had a very small European opera career. My big claim to fame was singing in Vienna at the same opera house where Beethoven's, I think one of his first operas was performed. And it's called, and I can't remember the name of it anymore, but with the, I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of the outreach for the Vienna State Opera. And we had the costumes from the Vienna State Opera, and some of their lower level singers who were in the cast. And I got to sing Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro, which is a very long role. It's been described as the Isolde of Mozart. She's on stage the whole time, and now I know that role in three languages. I performed it in English in Los Angeles in a school production, but and in Germany or in Austria in this production, and we also traveled. We took The Marriage of Figaro in a traveling production. Although I only performed in Vienna. Susanna anyway. I performed in it as it went around around Austria, and then I've sung it in Italian again in the United States or in Los Angeles, and I've had kind of a small opera career. I've sung on stage next to Placido Domingo. They put me in the chorus at LA Opera in its first seasons. And they put me next to him because I could hold my own. And that was an experience, being on stage with really world-class singers. And there's one of one of the costumes that we used for the opening that has my name in it probably, that is still, traveling here
Somewhere.
somewhere. So a small opera career. I mean, but so next, as again small, next to Placido, and I've danced with him actually. I danced the Veracruz Zapateado with him at the cast party for that production. It was kind of funny afterwards.
How exciting.
So, my life has been really interesting. And then while I was in Austria, I met my first husband. And that's how I have a daughter. Her name is London because that's where she happened. We were on our way back and stayed one glorious night in London. So her name was London. We decided not to name her Savoy, which was we're sure where she happened. So then I guess the thing I'm most proud of in my life, besides my daughter and my daughters, and the son that I now claim, he's not really a son, he's my nephew, he's my sister's son, but she charged him to me. She said, when I'm not here, he's going to be your son. He lived with me 4.5 years, and I have 2 grandchildren from him and 3 from my daughter. So I love my grandchildren. I love being a grandma. I wish I saw them more. But that experience the experience in Latin America, the experience in Europe those were transformative. I came back and started teaching because I had to support a family because he didn't speak English, and I'm proud of my teaching career. But it was, I was an elementary school teacher in the barrio, a bilingual, bicultural schools generally. I also taught music sometimes, but a lot of times bilingually. And the early bilingual years when it was truly a bilingual. I have students that now have college degrees that are fully bilingual. In fact, I have one from one of my first classes that is now ready to retire from LA Unified Schools.
Wow.
So, and then I got a doctorate. I went back to school and got a doctorate from USC. And I'm very proud of that because it was, I think, 12 years. I think it took me 12 years. They only give you 8, but they extended for me for who knows what reasons. Maybe it was because of singing with Placido, who knows. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
well, you should be.
It was 12 years of jumping through hoops of fire.
Can you also talk to us briefly also about the power of voice? Because I know that you've talked to other people about it and opening up one's throat and owning one's voice. Can you talk about that
that's
just a little
the thing
bit?
I'm the proudest of, because that's bilingual education. That is finding your voice. When you can speak your own language. Just like when I can speak Spanish, I find my voice. And then I ended up teaching music. It is probably my greatest talent. I can teach anyone to sing. I really can. If I have 17 weeks of once a week, I can teach anyone.
I know. Lindy and I are both shaking our heads like, okay.
I can teach anyone.
Really?
I sing to Phoenix and he gets up and leaves.
Well, that doesn't matter. My daughter, my dog does too. She doesn't, I think it's piercing. What she doesn't like to hear me warm up. It doesn't matter because what it is finding your voice.
I don't mean to interrupt, but so when you say finding my voice, are you talking about singing or the voice to speak out and stand up?
Both.
For your beliefs?
Both. Because they both, spiritually and physically, they're the same. All we're doing is learning how to breathe. That's a spiritual practice, is breathing. We breathe and then we vibrate that air. And whether it's speech or singing is nothing more than extended speech. And it doesn't matter, most people have to get over what other people think. The dog, my husband doesn't like to hear me sing either. The dog, the husband, the child. My daughter used to say, "Oh, Mom, don't say that. Don't use that voice." And that's the voice I needed to sing opera. So it doesn't matter. It's your voice to use whether it's through speech or through extended speech, which is singing. That's all it is. You can, that dog knows your voice.
Yes,
That's why he
that's
wants-
true.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
And maybe they hear differently than we hear. They hear tones and vibrations and that we don't hear. And I truly believe that the spiritual practice that I have is for the highest, purest source of energy, of light, love, and sound. And love travels on sound, on energy, on sound, and on light. It's energy that we transmit. We are transmitters, just like the poem that D.H. Lawrence says. We are transmitters, even if it's nothing but a well-ironed pocket handkerchief. So we
That's
transmit.
interesting. Yeah.
We transmit love. We transmit hate. We transmit everything through vibration. So vibrate your voice.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
Now,
That's why you're having a podcast. You're
oh my
transmitting.
God, that's true. That's true. Thank you. Thank you. That was profound for me that you just said that way. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want you to also, we only have a few more minutes, but I want you to also talk about your work about water here in Baja. If you could talk briefly, because that's huge, the work you do. You do work at the border with the migrants, but you also, there's so many things you do, Carol, that is just amazing to me that you're able to do all that you do. But especially the water situation and sewage and trying to keep the oceans clean has been, you've worked on that for what, 10 years, I think?
I think, it must be the Forrest Gump side. It's been actively at least 7 years. And these are just all little small things. And so far, I transmit information. I try to do some public education in my community and in the communities around us. I try to do a lot of reading and research to understand what's going on with the water. And I believe that water is life as much as air is life. And the pollution stirs up into the air and we get sick from it or we get well from it. We breathe it. So to me, the issue of water is probably the most important issue of our time. In fact, I heard a brief thing, I think on BBC News, with someone who was talking about the people who live in Gaza. They are having to drink water that is salty because the desalination plants are not working. Can you imagine drinking salty water?
No, I can't.
So, through the years, it's really a process of education. It's one of those things I'm learning about.
And one thing that always struck me, because I'm sure you're familiar with a Japanese doctor that froze
The water.
and so water has messages.
It
to your body.
vibrates.
Yeah.
It shines.
Yeah.
It has light, color, and vibration.
Yeah.
It's alive.
And we're 74% water.
Yeah,
So
We are. We're a process of water.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I have no idea why I continue to do it, because it's one of those things that it's like, I must have some autism in my soul, because it's like, I'm a headbanger. But I have this dream that we will have clean water. And I think there is more consciousness of that. Right now, we're doing a campaign. We have a new flyer that's going to be going out about don't throw anything into the toilets because the sewer system can't handle it. And it's not personal sewer systems. It's the sewer system for the community where I live. But people need to realize in Mexico, most sewer systems can't handle toilet paper. They don't have the grinder. So it overloads. So it's a process of education. And I believe that in many respects, I'm an educator. I mean, I'm a singer, I'm an educator, I'm whatever. I'm a a stone dropping in the water. The thing at the border, it's another hopeless task, but my legs carry me there.
Perhaps you'll end up being a laureate.
What?
Get the prize, out of Stockholm.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah.
No, nothing that I ever have done has been that successful. That's the one that says, remember, everything you do is little, but it's never been very successful. Not a large opera career, only one daughter, except for the others that I brought in. All of those things they were never what I thought they were going to be. But my life has just been, my legs carry me there and I do it. There's something that calls me to do it.
And I would like to end there because that is beautiful. My legs carry me there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you
Carol.
so much. This
Well,
was
I hope
really
you get something
extraordinary.
that you can use there.
Oh, all of it. All of it. Thank you.